Next segment, Bryan, let's chat about the offense, kind of our takeaways and our key moments offensively in this game. Let's start with the takeaways. Your initial takeaways watching the film. We can go any direction you want at this point. We can talk about some specific positions. We can talk about the offense as a whole. Kind of however you want to go. We'll jump on that wagon and we'll start rolling. Where you want to start with the offensive takeaways from watching the film?
Well, there's a couple. Couple that are just kind of easy to say. I thought this was the most confident that the offense was coming out of the gate, even before they got a couple shorter fields. I mean, that first drive, they looked like a confident football team. I mean, I thought the offensive line was coming off playing hard. I thought they were physical at the outset. They set the tone. And when you watch the film, you can see, look, there were some times in this game where Rocco Spindler had some really rough snaps, and Pat Coogan had some really rough snaps. Sam Pendleton had some really rough snaps. But they battled their butts off for 60 minutes. And I'm going to have some things to say at Irish Breakdown this week on our podcast and then on the board and stuff about the job I think Joe Rudolph is doing. There's some good things and some things I really don't like. But one of the biggest things I said about him coming into the year was I want to see if he can get his line to play hard every week. And so far he has. They haven't always played well. And I don't know that they played well on Saturday, but they played hard. And I just thought that early in the game, at least from a line, running backs, quarterback standpoint, you had a lot of confidence. There's some receivers not playing with much confidence or speed right now. Jaden Thomas is playing with a lot of confidence right now. There's no doubt about that. But I thought overall, they came out, they were confident. I loved the early game plan by Mike Denbrock. I thought they had Louisville on their heels early. I thought that was really impressive. You go back and watch it, and you're just like, okay, Louisville was guessing a lot, or they were just unsure of what was happening.
And that's big after what happened last year.
Yeah, exactly. I like to see a little bit more of that, to be honest with you, in this particular game, Vince. So, when I look at those things, those are obviously aspects of it. But, looking at some of the issues, though, Vince, is there were some issues that I saw in this game that were problems for this game that are also going to be problems moving forward if they don't get addressed. And the biggest one for me is Notre Dame has some major pass protection issues. And the concern is not that, like, okay, well, if you just go replace this guy with that guy, I thought Anthony Knapp it wasn't very good, but it was still his best pass pro performance of the season so far. It wasn't great, but it was still his best. This issue goes a lot deeper, Vince, to me, than just replacing, a guy. They've got legitimate. They don't know who they're supposed to block way too often in this game, and so there's some schematic pass pro issues that they had in this game. Teams have figured out with Pendleton and Knapp, if you run line games at them, they're going to get confused and you're going to have run-throughs. There was a play on. I'm trying to remember. It was a quick throw to Bo Collins. They ran just a little quick out cut to Bo. Bo's open. And this is one that you and I sort of agreed to disagree on of whether or not he should have caught it or not. But it's a quick game throw, Vince. He's catching and he's throwing.
Right.
Riley caught it and he starts to throw it and he gets drilled as he's – that should never happen in a quick game. Now, here's what happened. You had two guys kind of coming off the edge, one in front, one inside of Emil Wagner, one outside of Emil Wagner. In quick game, you should always be taught seal the inside. And then if Riley's got to throw off that, you want to throw off the guy that's furthest away, which is the outside guy. Well, Emil steps out to the outside guy, so the inside guy's got a fast track right to Riley and blows him up. Clearly, there's some sort of protection issue there. They still don't know how to handle long twists, and that's been true all year. These long twists where they will slant and then bring an end around, they'd have no concept of how to pick this up, and they haven't all year. You know what I'm talking about by long twist, Vince? Not so like you've got an end and a tackle and they just do a quick line game. I'm talking about how they'll slant two guys and bring the end all the way around. Bring somebody all the way around. Yes. Yeah. Notre Dame has no ability to pick that up. They have not. I don't know that they've picked that up once all year. I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but that was an issue in this game too. And then, of course, the tight ends were just at times, look, they had no clue who they were supposed to be. Oh, man. Pass, bro. Like, it was brutal.
Tight end blocking was not great at all.
It was brutal. And so that's going to have to get addressed big time. So, yes, there were some snaps where, Rocco got beat on some snaps. That's going to happen against Louisville. Coogan got beat on some snaps. Again, it's going to happen against Louisville. Pendleton had some misses. Emil probably had his worst game at Notre Dame probably so far. He wasn't bad, but it's just probably his worst game. That's going to happen against a D line like this. You can't then compound that with just guys running through. And I think that's part of the reason we saw the game plan we saw in second quarter, third quarter, because like they were going on the attack, and I felt like after that it was back-to-back plays, Vince, and I'm trying to remember what the other one was, but it was back-to-back plays where Riley just got drilled in the second quarter, and you're just like, okay,
yeah.
Their offense looked way different after that, because I just don't think that they had any confidence that the offensive line could pick up the line games, much less handle the one-on-one blocks. And you could tell Riley didn't have a lot of because there was a couple times I thought if he sticks with his read, maybe. But it's like I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine, and this is something that people don't understand that never played the position. And the comment made to me, and it's a totally rational comment. He goes, "Look, the problem that he had with Riley's performance was, yes, the O-line played bad, but even on plays when he had no pressure, his internal clock was too sped up." And I was like, that's exactly the point. Like, you don't know the plays that they're going to bring pressure or not. Once your internal clock gets sped up, it's just sped up.
Exactly.
Right? And you can't say, well, I think I'm okay on this particular play, so I'll go normal on this one. When you get hit as much and pressured as much as he did, you're just going to be sped up. Now, that doesn't justify everything that Riley did or all the misses that he had. You still got to kind of, okay, you got to figure it out and take advantage of those times you don't have it. But it's hard as a quarterback when you're just constantly getting pressured to be able to say, okay, well, I'm good on this one, so I'll just go ahead and read it out. And there weren't a whole lot of those plays. And that's problematic. So that's something that this staff is going to have to figure out during this bye week, Vince, is you've been having schematic protection issues kind of all year. And the book has been written on how to get after quick line games against your left guard and tackle, long twists, long games to your right side. And Notre Dame constantly misses on those. And if you bring sort of overloads to one side, they get confused on who's supposed to get what. That's kind of the reality of it. So
yeah,
you got to figure that out. You got to figure some of that stuff out. And then, again, in-game adjustments. Notre Dame's sprint out early was working. Louisville figured out slant inside of it. Slant inside to tackle, outside to guard, and Notre Dame had no adjustment to it. None. And they just kept – then once they got that, they knew how to beat it. Knew how to beat the sprint out. And you had no adjustments. However, I would say one of the adjustments was
that screen pass.
Screen.
Yeah, that was the one. It's a pretty major adjustment.
Right.
But
from a protection standpoint, there weren't adjustments.
Right.
They had a counter off of that. Hey, they're coming at us hard on sprint out. And something in the chat just said, I know Bub said, I know some were designed sprint outs, but it seemed like he was being chased from his left side a lot. Yes, he's being chased from his left side a lot. That's been true all year. That was also true on sprint outs, but you're okay with that on sprint out. I mean, and that's also partly why you come back to the screen, is because they're crashing hard backside in hopes that if Riley stops to settle and throw, you're going to drill him. So that's got to get fixed, Vince. Like, big time's got to get fixed. And you say, well, okay, do more max pro, but the way the running backs are blocking in pass pro, which is not great, and the way the tight ends are blocking in pass pro, which is just downright,
it's just awful.
I mean, I got no other way of saying it. It just was bad. And it's like with Eli Raridan, it looks like there's uncertainty of what to do. With Mitch Evans, it looks like an uncertainty of whether or not I want to try hard in this play. If I'm being honest, I don't know if you came up to the same. I mean, like Trevor texts me, he's like, holy moly, Mitchell Evans, what are you like? You're not. I mean, what's going on? So those things are going to have to get addressed big time in the bye week, and to the point where it's like, hey man, if you can't give me better effort than this,
No, you're absolutely right.
That's my justification for putting you out there.
Well, I mean, I think the bye week, and to your point, Brian, the bye week is going to be, again, it's a well-placed bye week at this point in the season with the way things are going. But I think you kind of have to, as Marcus Freeman would say, you got to question everything. You've got to figure out what the problem is. Is it personnel? Is it scheme? Is it lack of fundamentals and not knowing who to pick up? Or is it all of the above? But they've got to figure something out going into this kind of next stretch of the season, this next 3-game stretch, right? And then they'll be able to take it back and kind of figure things out again. That's fine. But hopefully at that point, you're building on what is working at that point. And I realize they're dealing with a lot of injuries on the offensive line. I get it. I totally understand that. But that's not an overall excuse. It's a reason, but
Vince,
it's not an excuse.
Pro guy so far is the guy that's been a day one starter. Now, again, I know Jagus got hurt, but that was like week 1 of fall camp.
Right. Yes.
You know, so like you can somewhat understand, you know, Coogan having some I mean, to your point, but like I thought the guy that was probably the worst in pass pro on Saturday was the right side. I mean, Emil, like I said, struggled on Saturday. Well, he's a day one starter. I mean, and again, he's going to have days like that. I'm not banging on Emil. I'm not even thinking about. The only thought I have about Emil is whether or not I want to give him a shot at left tackle during the bye week. That's the only thought I have on Emil. I wouldn't. But when you're a first-year starter, you're going to have some games where it's like, okay, I wasn't at my best today.
Sure.
Right? And so that's but like with some of these others, you know, we'll talk more about it during the week. I want to focus on this game because that'll be one of our topics of conversation for this week. But for this game, it wasn't necessarily the guys getting beat individually that was my problem. That's going to happen against Louisville. And as a quarterback, that doesn't bother you as much. What can really get in the head of a quarterback is when you're getting constantly having run-throughs. That's the concern. When you're running quick game and a guy's coming at you and drilling you as soon as you're getting to the top of your drop, that's what gets in the quarterback's head. Like you can't even pass pro quick game, really. That's a major problem. So
right.
there was a lot of confusion, and here's the thing: it's not a one-off. This wasn't like
Agreed.
Louisville was doing stuff like, oh my gosh, they're like this has been an issue every week, right. And it's going to have to get fixed. So it's not that you just have to clean up some guys getting beat. That's bad enough, but there's definitely some protection scheme issues, whether it's the scheme isn't good or the players aren't being taught how to handle it. Hey, if you got a mic pro or you got a slide pro or whatever you got going on, here's how you handle these different aspects of it. There's things that they're getting beat on that they are just still getting beat on 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season. That's the big concern for me. And Louisville saw it and they exploited it.
Oh yeah.
And Notre Dame had no adjustments for it.
Right.
And that's a big concern. My other thing, Vince, you know, I've spent a lot of time defending the wide receivers the last couple of years because I feel like a lot of times they get blamed for things that aren't them, and people that only watch. One of the comments I love when I put the whole every pass play breakdown last week is people like, wow, I thought the receivers played better than I thought they did, and I didn't realize that because I can only see the TV. And I'm like, this is why I try to tell you guys sometimes if all you see is the TV copy, maybe you shouldn't be as harsh in your criticism of wide receivers who you rarely see.
Right.
What they're doing except the get off and then what's happening at when the ball's in the air. This is not one of those times. I was so disappointed by the play of some of the receivers and the tight ends as a whole. And when I talk about tight ends, I'm talking about blocking. We talked about was a problem at the tight end position, but just the lack of I don't even say urgency, just fire with the tight ends coming off the ball in pass pro, especially Mitchell Evans. Like, you can talk all you want about, you know, the knee and all that. And maybe that's the issue and he needs to heal up. I hope that would actually, if I found out he just is still struggling with the knee, that would make me feel a lot better because the other option is not as good. And that's more of an attitude thing. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I can do a little digging on that. But here's what I do know. For whatever the cause, the effort, it's not there. The urgency is not there. The focus is not there. Route running is poor. It's not just slow, but it's poor. Just getting guys knocking you down on seam routes. Like, you're a 260-pound tight end and you're getting knocked down on seam routes. Like, come on, bro. Like, what are you trying to do here? I thought I was disappointed in the effort of Chris Mitchell at times on Saturday, Vince. Same thing, just getting knocked off your route, just giving up on routes. Not all the receivers. Like, I didn't think Bo played well on Saturday. But going back and watching the All-22, I never got the feeling that Bo was not given effort. I just think, like, here's the issues I had with Bo. Not focus on the one drop. I thought he was rushing his pivot routes a little too much. Like, Jaden Thomas really sells that pivot and works out. I thought Bo was rushing a little bit too much, which made him coverable. Those are things that I can coach up. hey, you got to do a better job stacking this guy on a go ball. Riley should have thrown it back shoulder on that one particular go route that was outside. The guy was a step on, and that's one of those ones you throw a backside shoulder ball. That's on Riley. I just didn't think Bo had his best game, but I never watched, and maybe you saw it different. I never once thought, oh, man, Bo's not trying hard. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing about all the receivers. I thought Jaden Greathouse played hard, but at times you can tell when Jaden's not a primary read because he runs like he's not a primary read. Well, you may not be the primary read, but you still got to run hard because you've got to influence the defense so that the primary read can get open. And so those are some of the issues I had, Vince. I was disappointed by the effort of some of the receivers and the tight ends on Saturday. And I don't want to hear, well, it's because of the quarterback. No. Look, y'all know my stance on that. Your actions are never defined by what someone else does. Your actions are defined by you. Mm-hmm. If I punch someone in the face, I can say, well, he started it, but I still chose to respond. Now, sometimes that response is justified. You know what I mean? Which we talked about earlier. Guy spit in your face. A response is justified. Choose the appropriate response. I never once said, Jordan Clark, you can't respond to being spit in the face. No, you respond. There's a right and a wrong way to respond, and you're a sixth-year senior. You should know that by now.
Exactly.
But when you say, well, I'm not going to play hard because I don't think I'm getting the ball, okay. Hey, Micah Gilbert, if I put you in the game and you're not going to get the ball, are you going to still run hard? Hey, Cam Williams, how about you? Yes? All right, get in. Because that's my sign. Hey, look, man, you're not going to play hard. I got KK Smith chomping at the bit to get in the game. I got Cam Williams chomping at the bit to get in the game. I got Micah Gilbert chomping at the bit to get in the game. I got Jaden Thomas playing his freaking butt off right now for Notre Dame. Playing his butt off. I'm giving him more snaps because at least I know he's going to play. Hey, right now, my two most giving me great effort receivers I have on the team right now are Jaden Thomas and Bo Collins. Okay, I got to figure out a way to get those two guys on the field together. You know what I mean? Jaden Greathouse. Okay, your situation, you're younger. I'll but here's why, I'll work with him. But like, if you're a senior and you're not playing hard, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, except find someone else who's going to play hard. Bet you Logan Saldate's not going to take snaps off. You know what I mean? Bet you Cam Williams won't take snaps off. That's my conversation if I'm Mike Brown. Hey, if you can't give me better effort than that, then I'm going to find somebody else who can. Do you think Mike Mickens would put up with that at corner? You think Al Golden is going to let his linebackers just kind of lollygag around the field if they're not the – no way. You're going to lollygag your butt over to the sideline and sit beside me the rest of the game is what you can do. There's got to be some accountability when efforts – look, again, I'm not – with Bo Collins, I'm coaching up some things he did route-wise, and, hey, you got to catch that ball. There's some things I would do coaching. But, hey, you know what? Your effort was there. You just weren't crisp on some things. We'll get that coached up, get back at it, and you're going to have a big game against Stanford, right? Receivers had bad games. Bo had a bad game. But I didn't question his effort. Jaden Thomas, okay, maybe you're not great at this route, but you're really good over here. But, man, your effort every snap, you're blocking your butt off. You're making clutch catches. I mean, Jaden's had 2 huge catches now. Third down play against Purdue that went for 23. Big fourth down in this game. I know I'm going to get him to play hard. I can live with that. So that's my thing is there needs to be some accountability in the receiver room. If you're not going to run hard on every snap, I don't care if you think you're getting the ball or not, because you never know where the ball is going to go.
Exactly.
Then I'm going to find somebody else who did. And I don't hear any excuses about the quarterback's this or the play calls this. You better give me – you're trying to play 6, 7 guys. You're not playing 50, 60 snaps a game. You can go hard when you're in there. And if Cooper Flanagan's back for the Stanford game, I'm gonna have some conversation with those other 2 guys. Hey, you want to play more? I need more from you. Look, I don't care if you run 30 routes as hard as you can and you don't get targeted once. That's my expectation of you. You can't control where the ball goes. Let Gino and Coach Denbrock deal with that. Getting the quarterback right, but you control your effort. And that's where I'm at. And guys, let's not compare. I love Cam Williams and I love Micah Gilbert and Logan Saldate, but let's not compare them to Ryan Williams. That's a different type of dude. Okay, but the overall point is the same. You got a lot of freshmen making an impact. You got some freshmen on offense that are chomping at the bit to make an impact. If the effort's not going to be there, then I need to find somebody else who can do it.
Sure.
And if you say, well, Cam doesn't know a lot of routes, they're not running a ton of routes right now.
No, they're not.
I can get Cam to run a go ball, a hitch, a comeback, and an out. I mean, you know what I mean? I can get him do that, right? So that's my thing is if I'm Mike Brown, there's some film that I have from this Saturday that is going to result in some very uncomfortable film sessions with my receivers this week. And if I don't see changes coming out of it, then I'm going to then make some changes. And to the young receivers at Notre Dame, if you're not happy with where you're on the depth chart, go give me the best effort you've had all year these next 2 weeks and give the coaches a reason to put you in the game, because right now everything is on the table when it comes to fixing the pass game, Vince. Everything. Every position is on the table for changes when it comes to fixing the pass game. From quarterback all the way down to your number 3 receiver, to your third down back, to all your offensive linemen, to running back. And I don't mean benching guys. Sometimes it's, hey, look, we're going to need to get this guy more activated in this type of situation, whatever the case may be. When you talk about quarterback, it may not be benching the quarterback. Maybe it is. But I'm more saying like, okay, we got to figure out some things that we've got to do that maybe will be better for him. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. Everything is on the table. Everything is on the table. And after what I saw on Saturday from that, man, there better be some guys that are having some soul searching going on this week during the bye about how bad do they really want this thing, because you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem.
Right. Let's talk about some of the key moments for the offense, and then we'll switch on over to the defense, Brian. The first key moment's easy in this game. I mean, offensively, it was that first drive of the game. I mean, and we kind of talked about it earlier, but the moment itself, you know, special teams gives up a fumble, defense gives up a touchdown, 3 plays in, short field, obviously. Now the offense has to respond, and they do so with a 75-yard, 6-minute drive for a touchdown. It's a huge, 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 huge momentum swing, in my opinion, in that game. I mean, the crowd was out of it at that point. I mean, before the offense got the ball, they were out of it. Like they were all stunned, and everybody's thinking to themselves, "Here we go again." You know, another lackluster home, you know, experience here for Notre Dame. And the offense says, "No, hold my beer. We got this." And they go straight down the field and they do their thing. So that's the easiest first key moment in this game. And obviously it continued on the first 3 series, but that first series, man, that was absolutely electric. And I know there's a moment in that first series that you want to touch on as well.
Well, the 4th down was the big one of that series.
Yeah.
I mean, it was later in the game, they went with the run game, but that was one because it was basically saying, I mean, here's the whole play. Jaden Thomas, you got to beat that guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was one-on-one.
One route. There's a whole read. I'm sprinting left. Jaden Thomas got to beat that guy.
That's exactly what it was.
Guess what Jaden Thomas did? He beat that guy.
Beat him bad too.
And it was that's, I said, go back and watch it, folks. That's a win play. You just got to win.
Yep.
And he did that, and he made the play, and then Riley made the throw. That play right there, like that changes things, Vince, because I'm going to the down and distance. It was 4th and 3.
Yeah.
You're at the 31-yard line going in, so you're not worried about like bad field position, but you've got a nice drive going here. You all of a sudden, you know, you got to a 3rd and 1, right? Or 2nd and 1. You lost 2 yards on a slide route that went for -2 because your quarterback didn't have time to get the ball out to a comeback because he was getting pressured. And, you know, you come back out and you throw an incomplete pass on the play before on 3rd and 3 because you had the drop by Bo Collins on 3rd and 3. And you get in this 4th and 3 situation, and it's like all the good things you've done so far and all the momentum you're trying to get back could have been gone if they stop them on 4th down. Now all of a sudden Louisville's got the ball, the 31-yard line, up 7-0, and it's gonna get real interesting moving forward. Right. So that drive was huge, Vince. But that play right there to me was the turning point. Like, you are correct. That drive was the turning point of the game. I think this game looks a lot different if they don't put that drive together. That play was the make or break of that drive. Now, that just got them to the 28-yard line. They still had 28 more yards to go, and they did it.
Sure.
But
it kept the drive alive. Yeah, no,
that's right.
100%.
That's right.
That was massive.
So,
And I was,
yep.
look, I'll be honest with you. I was, when he dropped back to pass on that on 4th and 3, I was a little nervous. I mean, Riley
Especially
had done
sprinting out to his left.
yes, he had done
Like,
a
oh,
great
God.
job. He had done a great job up to that point, hitting his layups and doing what he needed to do on that drive. I was very happy with it. Doesn't mean I wasn't nervous when he dropped back and started sprinting out. And
He didn't drop back.
Literally,
He
well, you're right.
sprinted
It
out.
was a sprint out, but it was like it was a
Just
one
pure
like
sprint.
if Jaden doesn't win that, it's not a first down. You know what I mean? And if Riley doesn't put it right on the numbers, it's not a first down. So a lot had to go right there, and it did. And so that's why it was a turning point in that game, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Another turning.
The other one. Go ahead, Vince.
I was gonna set us up for the next one. Another turning point in the game, and it's not really just a single point, but it was short field touchdowns for Notre Dame.
And the sudden change drives, the drives 2 and 3. Yeah. The sudden change drives where you got turnovers on back-to-back drives. One of them you needed to go 53 yards. The other one you needed to go 4. Right. I thought getting touchdown. Like, I mean, if they would have got a couple first downs, kicked a field goal, that's still good. You're up 10-7, you know. But, I mean, look, I'll put it like this. If you don't get that, if it's 17-14 at the end of the first half and Jeff Brom's facing a 4th and 2, he probably kicks the field goal and ties the game up.
Yeah.
If you would have got a field goal on one of those drives. But I thought those were very important moments, Vince. And
they were massive.
There wasn't a particular play of each one. I mean, the one was a one play, 4-yard
one
drive.
Play, yeah.
But the other one, I mean, you hit the big pass to Jaden Greathouse. That was big. Good read by Riley. Snapped the ball off. Did a nice job of throwing it behind him. If he leads him, you're leading him into the back of the end zone. Gets a little hairy. Threw it to where Jaden could kind of slow up and make an easy catch. I thought
I said this in the earlier show, and you played quarterback, so you can speak to it a little bit more definitively than I can. Throw into a guy that's that wide open. Sometimes you can start to aim the ball a little bit. You know what I mean? And so,
especially on that part of the field, it would be different if you're throwing a seam route from your own 34, because then you're kind of getting that sucker out there and letting him run underneath it, and then the safety can't come over because you threw it over top of the safety. But the safety's coming over. He's got the back of the end zone as an aid. So he doesn't have to worry about getting depth. He's coming in a straight line across.
Right.
You put that on him, let him slow up on it and make that throw. So when you're throwing to the end zone, you throw at a guy.
Yeah.
That's the coaching point. If you're throwing the ball in the end zone, you throw it at him. You don't lead him on a vertical end zone shot. You throw it at him, right? Again, I'm talking stuff that's in the middle of the field. I'm not talking like a goal ball. We're talking about like if you're throwing something that's sort of any kind of movement route, you're throwing it at him. But even still, same thing if you're at the 15-yard line and you're running basically a go ball, unless you're just catching and throwing, you're throwing it at him because you're going to have to put it back shoulder, let him go up and get it. Like almost every throw in the end zone, you're throwing it at a guy and instead of leading a guy.
Right.
Because you can't let that ball float and you can't lead him too much. So I had no problem with that throw at all. The only coaching point I made is I thought he had one, I thought, gather step too many, where I could have seen him go, okay, you go here, you reset your feet and let it rip. I thought that could have been it. But overall, it was good. Yeah. The other turning point for me, Vince, did you have anything before that final touchdown drive?
Nope.
I will say this: the negative turning point was the fumble by Jadarian Price.
Oh yeah,
that just took all this wind out of the team sails. I mean, you were rolling in that game. You got the ball
rolling offensively. Yeah,
you put a nice. Even if you have to punt or only get a field goal, that's a different looking game. That was a major turning point. Now, look, part of that was a good play by the defender. He came up behind him and just ripped it out. Just put his hands through the football. But running backs are taught when you're in traffic, you've got to keep that ball in your chest. I mean, it's just a mistake that he made. Jeremiah Love made one last week. If you ask what the difference was, is Jeremiah's got recovered by your own team. I still thought that Jadarian should have come back in at some point, but apparently coach was making a point to him, and hopefully Jadarian learns from it. I hope they do with Jadarian what Notre Dame did with Audric 2 years ago. You remember when Audric was having fumbling problems early, and he had he had a fumble against North Carolina. He had the really bad fumble against Stanford late in the game. You remember that? And they came out and they benched him against Stanford, didn't come back out. The very next game, they put him at fullback and handed the ball off twice to start the game. I hope that they do. Hey man, you serve, you know what you did. You've been great for us this year. We're going to go back out there and show you we still got faith in you. So I believe the initial punishment I get, but then it doesn't linger into the next game as long as he's got the right attitude. So
yeah,
I'd like to see them kind of get him going, but that was big because that's what kind of allowed – they were on the verge of running Louisville off the field at that point in time, and that turnover got them back in. And it was a different game up until that final scoring drive.
Quick aside from the earlier show, Brian, I have to bring this up. I had the exact same – we talked about, the benching and all of that, and I said, you got to get him back in the game, et cetera, et cetera. Well, apparently I've forgotten about this until I was reminded of it today. Apparently, Jesse Stiers fumbled, and when he played for me, and I didn't play him the rest of the game, and Sean held that against me, and so he said that I bench people for the rest of the game when you fumble. So I'm not allowed to have a different opinion now.
Okay, well that's BS. You learned from your ways. You were a young coach at the time.
That's right.
And also, here's the other response. Jesse, you're not good enough at running back
he was a fullback.
to justify going back in. All right, Jadarian is.
Yeah, that's right.
You were no Jadarian Price.
That's right.
Okay,
you were my middle linebacker who fullback at times.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway,
that would be my response to Sean. Is like,
bring that up.
Now, linebacker, I'm not benching. I remember Jesse as a linebacker. I'm not benching him as a linebacker. If he missed a tackle, I'm going to correct it and get him back in there because Jesse was a pretty good linebacker in high school.
Yeah,
which is why we tried to recruit him.
Right.
But
well, you knew who my tailback was, though, right?
Yeah, Shaq Van. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't get benched. Yeah. Like he got to play. Yeah.
Right. So you weren't good. You're not good enough. It's like the great story from Lou Holtz. I was reading his book one time, and he was talking about why he doesn't get mad playing golf anymore. He says he's playing golf with Arnold Palmer. How about that? Right. Playing golf with Arnold Palmer. And Lou hit a bad shot and he threw his club. And he said that Arnold Palmer said to him, Lou, you are not a good enough golfer to get mad when you don't hit a right shot. And it's like, you are not a good enough running back to get mad at me for not playing you after you fumble.
Oh, great.
So that would be my response to that.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I had to bring that up just because we were talking about it. So
yeah, Jesse didn't say it. His dad did, but this is the response you give to the dad.
100%.
Because his dad's clearly holding grudges.
It's great. That's an old grudge.
By the way, Sean's having fun with it. I'm having fun with it. We're not throwing shade at Jesse. I literally tried to recruit Jesse to the school I was coaching at.
Yes,
if that tells you anything about what I feel about Jesse as a football player. So we're just having some fun with it.
That's great. No, that's good stuff.
Final turning point, Vince. Your offense had sputtered. Second quarter sputtered. Third quarter sputtered. Previous drive, you turned it over on downs, got stuffed on fourth down.
Yeah.
And Louisville goes down after you get stuffed on fourth down. And I believe Louisville went down and got a field goal on that next drive, correct? So after Notre Dame's up 24-14, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Going into the fourth quarter, and you get stopped on downs. And Louisville takes that next drive and they kick a field goal. It's now a one-score game, and there's 11 and a half minutes left in the game. And it is a ball game again at that point in time. And what does Notre Dame do? They come out the next drive, and they get a full start on the first play of the drive.
No, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That's what happened there.
Yep. You get down, and it's now 3rd and 6. You're playing behind the sticks the whole time, and you have been pretty terrible on third down the whole game. And Riley hits Jaden Harrison on that big play. And that was one of those ones where, okay, where has that been all game? They used a zip motion and ran a pivot route, and it was the same thing happening against Purdue. Jaden runs a slot fade. Both DBs are looking at the pivot route because Notre Dame's hit that pivot route a couple times, and Notre Dame's hit a bunch of quick game. So I love the play call, Vince, because it's 3rd and 6, and your entire game plan this week, last week, and the week before is on 3rd and 6. You're basically running a bunch of routes at 6 yards.
Yeah, it was a tendency breaker.
And they ran that pivot route. And the thing about a pivot route, and I explained this against the Purdue game, the pivot route is huge in that situation because it crosses the face of both guys that are playing you and the other route. Where if you're just running a normal slot fade, it's just a hitch outside and then the wide fade, you've basically got 2 one-on-ones, so to speak. And there's no real stressor against the defense outside of the coverage, and then you've just got to win the one-on-one. But by doing that zip motion, it's basically a post-snap switch that requires communication by the secondary. And when there's communication post-snap, there's a greater chance for mistakes. It happened against Purdue, and it happened in this game. And Jaden got open. Riley threw it out to him. You get a big gain. I would have liked to see him lead him just a little bit more, but I think he was worried about that safety coming over. And it's like you said earlier, I need to complete this freaking pass. And I'm not trying to lead him for a touchdown. I'm trying to get a freaking first down. And that safety was coming over. And you don't want that ball up in the air too much. So 3rd and 6, you convert that. And then I think it was 2 plays later, you get the touchdown. I thought that drive as a whole, that game, like, I thought at that time, you score a touchdown, Louisville starts with 9-16. I said, there's a chance Louisville scores one more time against this defense. There's no chance they're scoring 2 more times against this defense in the last 9 minutes of the game. No chance.
Agreed.
I thought the ball game was over then. And that 3rd and 6 play in a game where your 3rd down offense was garbage the entire game outside of that was a huge turning point. That basically won you the game. So I thought that whole – and then the play call 2 plays later is phenomenal. I mean, like a buddy of mine, like 2 plays before, was talking about how, you need to get somebody else in there running back and all this other kind of stuff. And then they ran that play, and I was kind of busting the chops. He goes, dude, I could have scored on that play. I'm like, no, you couldn't have. But it was he had to make one guy miss late. He had a great block downfield from Anthony Knapp. But overall, it's like Jeremiah ran good 15, 20 yards before anybody could hit him because it was such a great play call, and they bit on it so hard. And Rocco got it in front of a guy, and then Anthony had a great downfield block that let him score, because otherwise it might have only been like a 20-some yard gain. It let him score, but that series of events, to me, that was the ball game, Vince.
Agreed.
Offense.
Agreed. That's going to do it for our offensive look back at the film, as well as our key moments in the game for the offense. We've got one more segment, so don't go anywhere. But in the meantime, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell. Share with your family and friends. And, of course, jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com. There's going to be all kinds of good stuff up there. It's the bye week, so Bryan just has nothing but time to put up great stuff up on the boards. So make sure you get on the board.
Pretty high bar there, Vince. You're going to be helping me out with all this great content this week, buddy?
It's homecoming. I don't have time for you. No, just kidding. So make sure you get on the boards.irishbreakdown.com, everybody.
I heard a little.